Welcome in, Aggie fans. We are in the brand new football locker room. We're checking in today with head football coach Tony Sanchez here in January. The portal just closed a couple of days ago, and now we're checking in with Coach as we break down these position groups and look ahead towards 2026. This is part of the Aggie Up Podcast series on audio. You can find this episode, all of our past episodes, on the Aggie Up Podcast series, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, nmstatesports.com, and video available on the NM State Aggies YouTube page as well as nmstatesports.com and the Aggies social media platforms. Adam Young with you, joined by Coach. January is still rolling along, but the portal is now closed.
Yep.
Take us through January so far, Coach. What's it been like going back to when the portal opened?
Well, so not sure if everybody knows. I'm sure people are familiar with college football, but we've changed the rules now, right? It was completely dead December, so no trips in December, no reaching out, actively recruiting people. Players weren't supposed to get in the portal. A lot of them announced it on social media, so it kind of gave you a beat on who you needed to watch film on and get ready for. And then January 2nd, it opened up. So the 2nd through midnight on the 16th, it was wide open. So we tripped 40-some-odd kids during those couple days, those 2 weeks. Signed 22, 23 so far right now. We had another one who signed his papers this morning. So really good group, so I'm excited about it. But it was fast and furious. And the thing that we're really excited about is we've done over the years, going all the way back to 22 when I first got here as a receiver coach, we've done a really good job of acquiring talent and bringing guys in. The thing that's hurt us the last 2 seasons has been that spring portal, right? So you do all this work right now, and then you lose another 17 to 20 guys in the spring. Now you got to go ahead and redo this whole thing in May and June. That doesn't exist this year. No spring portal, which is great. I think we've done a great job of retaining guys, keeping guys here, guys that didn't go in the portal, and then acquiring new guys, getting them here. President Furmay, Joe Fields, they've made a real effort to make sure that we had revenue share ability that we did not have in the past. Last year, there were some teams that had $1 million more than us, right? And I know that we're one of the very few teams, I think the only team in Conference USA that spent more on their basketball team than their football team. When you're talking about 85 guys, it gets really tough, right? So again, with the, with the investment that we've made now in rev share, our ability to go out and continue to recruit the way we have at a high level, I think it was a really successful January, and we're going to find out here real soon. But I'm excited to have these guys for a full calendar year this year.
You bring up retention. Was the retention what you hoped when you look back at the end of the season in December?
Yeah, so that part's been, really, that's been really nice. When we bring back both starting defensive ends, one of the starting defensive tackles, both inside linebackers, one of our starting corners, 2 starting safeties. Offensively is where you're going to see a lot of new names. We were able to bring a lot of our young guys back. A lot of our older guys were, older players, on the offensive side of the ball. So, and we needed to retool the offense a little bit. So you're going to see a lot of new faces over there. But defensively, I thought we brought a lot of good players back.
Was there a specific position group that you were targeting in the portal?
Yeah, again, with players you have, your higher level players, so to speak, right? You're going to lose some of those guys in the portal, right? We knew last year, one of our biggest sticking points was our inability to run the football last year. We threw it around the yard, over 3,000 yards, but we really did not have the ability to run the ball like we had in the past. So we needed to add a lot of beef up front. We signed 7 offensive linemen between December and now. We brought in 2 new running backs, right? So we really feel good about that. We brought in 3 new tight ends. So again, I think that we did a really good job of bringing guys in that have played a lot of snaps. Of those 7 guys, 6 of them have played, at least 1 AA football. Most of them have multiple starts in their career. We brought over a young man, Jeremy from UTEP, who started every game for him last year. So we brought some guys, Mark Chapman, the center from Columbia. I can go on, but these guys are guys that have started well over 20 games in their career and been very successful where they're at.
When we look at specific position groups, and I want to do that now, I do want to start with the offensive line. Normally I would say let's start with quarterbacks or running backs, but I do want to start with the offensive line because it was very evident throughout social media that you guys added some really talented offensive linemen, and that was a focus. You mentioned the center, Mark Chapman out of Columbia. Was a focus for you guys trying to find guys that were playing at the collegiate level, whether it be FBS or FCS, and had 2 or 3 years of starting experience under their belt so they could come in and start and play right away?
Yeah, that was really big to us. Like I said, we were able to redshirt some really good quality freshmen last year. You get guys like Lee coming back, Mateo's coming back. So we had some guys coming back, but we felt like we needed to go get 6 or 7 guys that were older, that had 1 and or 2 years left, that had multiple years of starting under their belt. And that's what what we did. I mean, again, these were battles. The one thing, that we're able to do now is, because of some of the rev share, we were able to actually get in some of these fist fights and win, We had quite a few guys that tripped to other schools in our conference, Mountain West schools, American Conference schools, and again, it was a really solid effort. I think Coach Canova is kind of his first year to really kind of put his stamp on that offensive line room. And again, bringing in, 7 new faces with the guys we have returning. Right now we have 15 scholarship offensive linemen. We saved one just in case for the spring, whether it's a JUCO guy or a grad transfer or something like that. So we'll see when we use that. But we feel really good about the 15 guys we have.
We'll get to Kanan Yarrow in a little bit because he's back on your staff. But when I think about the bowl teams and just the consistency up front, Kanan was the cornerstone at the center position. Having a guy like Mark Chapman who has experience in the Ivy League at Columbia, was he the cornerstone piece when you guys attacked that offensive line during the portal?
Yeah, we knew that we needed to get an older center, someone who could kind of anchor that whole thing, who had experience. So we were kind of recruiting him and the quarterback, Trey Hedden, at the same time, So those two guys came down. They actually were on visits together. So knocking those two out of the park right away was huge. I mean, getting your guy who can come in, who's got 2 years experience, who's, thrown for over 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, and then having a center that's come in who has multiple years. And Mark's a great story too. I mean, he's a guy who went to Columbia and he did his internship this summer, right, on Wall Street, right? Well, Monday's the day off, kind of like it is here for us. Well, every Monday during the entire season, he went back to Wall Street and worked on Wall Street on his days off. So, wow. I mean, he's a sharp guy. So hopefully he can help me invest one day.
Well, earlier this week, I saw Mark and Trey on campus, and those two guys work together. So
they're actually living together. So
there you go. They're in sync already,
so,
which is good
exactly.
news. Let's go there to quarterback. Trey Hedden out of Furman, right around 5,000 passing yards combined the last 2 years, 30 touchdowns. What did you like on film with him and just talking to people about him when you were reviewing Trey Hedden?
Well, it's really competitive and tough to recruit quarterbacks in this climate. Trey's a guy that obviously when we identified him, you love his size, 6'2", 225 pounds. He's a guy who's thrown the ball around the yard. I think there's some things we can help him with consistency-wise too. Coach Joseph's, throughout his entire career has done a great job there, but it was a tough process. I mean, he took 2 other Power 4 visits. He was on the horn with a team that might have been playing just this last, Monday, right before. And the thing about quarterbacks is what they're starting to realize is the one thing about the portal, now that you're a couple years in, you have certain monetary values that guys have at certain schools. So what are they paying a starter? What are they paying a backup? A guy like Trey, he wanted to know that he had an opportunity to go to a place and be the starter, and we provided that for him. Now he's going to have to compete. Kalani's a guy, coming from Diablo Valley College that threw for over 3,000 yards and another 28 touchdowns or something. You got Adam DeMonte, who started 2 games for us last year, threw for darn near 600 yards in his 2 starts. So we feel like we have, since I've been here in 22, we've never had 3 quarterbacks on the roster like this, right? So these are all guys that have played games, started games, been competitive. But, Trey was a guy that was an absolute battle to get him. Really appreciative to him and his family for sticking with us and coming to be Aggies.
When you look at quarterbacks in the portal, how important is it, and is it most important to find a guy that will fit what Coach Yost wants to do?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, obviously, there's some little nuances, and you can adjust a little bit. And the one thing about having a guy like Coach Yost as our offensive coordinator is he's had a lot of different types of quarterbacks. He's had the dual threat. He's had the stationary. I mean, obviously, we want guys who can be a little bit mobile. We feel Trey can do that, and the other 2 guys we know can do that also. So it's one of those deals, too. We're going to play to his strengths, though.
Speaking of being in the mix with P4s, let's go to the running back room and start with James Jones, who had a lot of Power 4 interest and offers on the table, and he chooses to come here to play for you guys. He'll be coached by Coach Cobb in the running back room. What does he bring to the table, and what was so attractive just outside of the film on James Jones, which is impressive to watch?
Yeah, when you see a guy who has over 950 some odd yards, rushing on 90 some odd carries, and you're going, this guy averaged 10 yards a carry. I mean, I don't care what level you're playing at, that doesn't happen. I mean, it's hard to. I think Donovan Vappell just averaged just over 10 yards a catch last year, let alone a rush, right? So, it was highly competitive. And again, it's one of those deals where if you get a guy like James who wants to play on Sundays, right? He knows he's got to get the ball in order to to do that. Well, sometimes when you're looking at all these P4s, right, and you're going into a loaded running back room, it doesn't mean you're not going to be the starter, but you just don't know how it's all going to play out. Are you really going to get the touches? Well, we've done such a good job here over the last bunch of years of recruiting running backs. I mean, we ran into Star Thomas this year at Tennessee. You saw Mike Washington and both Seth McGowan. They're both in the Senior Bowl right now. You look at MK, who's over, at Bandy doing a really good job. I mean, we've had a bunch of running backs here. Dom Richardson, who was here with us last spring, left before we even got to the season. He led Tulsa in rushing this past year. So I think if you're a running back and you look at us and what we do with our backs and the success that they've had, we are definitely a spot that you're going to heavily consider. So it was good beating those guys and getting a nice 6'1", guy who can run and be explosive like that.
Is that a big recruiting piece for you in the portal? Is when you're talking about the success the last couple of years of that running back room?
So the one thing is now with the portal, we're very honest and open about it, and we talk about it. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. You bring guys in now and you're like, hey, you come in here and you have a great year, right? We'll do what we can to try to retain you, but if not, if you create more value, then you'll go on somewhere else and you'll get paid a whole lot more, and that's fine, So those guys know that, and I think us talking about the players that we've had, the success that they've had, the places that they've gone, it just adds credibility to the way we evaluate and the way we develop players. I mean, when you look at the amount of Aggies that are having success this past year on other rosters, that doesn't happen without them coming here. Coach Klein doing a great job in the weight room, doing a great job with our nutrition, doing a great job of us coaching them on the football field. And we've done that, And again, the saving grace for the Aggies now, right? And a lot of schools are probably talking about it, but for us, if we believe, if we've recruited the way we think we have, right, and now with our ability to not have to go ahead and work on retention in the spring, we got these guys for a full year, so we're excited about it.
Terrell Washington Jr. from Iowa. Is it just a matter of him getting consistent touches?
Yeah, no different than Mike Washington. Nobody knew who he was when he got here. He's a guy from Buffalo that had, sporadic success, right? And I think Washington's that same way. I think, he's at Iowa. He got 40 some odd carries, 180 some odd yards. Scored a touchdown. I mean, he did some good things for him. It's not a guy they wanted to see leave, but he's a guy again who, he feels like given the opportunity, he's going to create a whole lot more value. So he's going to get a lot of touches this year. And we're excited. I mean, I think those two guys, along with DeJohn Stanley coming back, we're going to go out and get one more high school kid. So we're working on that right now. Isaiah Ruddison back in that room. All of a sudden now, I mean, I think that, compared to where we were last year, I think that running back room and that offensive line room takes a massive jump, and it needs to.
Wide receiver room and the tight end room. I noticed you guys added a lot of tight ends with experience. Same with wide receivers. Devin Ellison, probably the biggest name in that wide receiver room as far as additions. But I want to start with retaining the wide receivers you retained. TK King is still here. Brody Malone Bradford choosing to come back for another year. TJ Pride comes back. And A.J. Williams, we saw what he did last year going into the season before getting injured. He's back as well. Just how good does the wide receiver room look, and also what you did in the tight end room in the portal?
Yeah, we felt like the wide receiver room was a strength last year. Keeping King and Brody Malone was huge. I mean, those two guys we feel like have all conference first team potential. They're those type of guys. Pride, just the experience that he has coming on back, and then the additions of the guys that you just named. We felt like that was a big priority. So we feel like, again, with Trey coming in, with that offensive line being able to run the ball better this year, we're going to need to. It's going to really open up that passing game, So we're excited about that. But again, it all starts with the retention of those two guys. And then in the tight end room, you lose Gavin Harris, who had 30-some-odd catches, right around 600 yards. So you lost a lot of production in that room. Well, we were able to go out and, and bring 3 tight ends in through the portal. Excited about that. And, we added a lot of length. We felt like we were, especially in the run game, we needed to really improve in the tight end room. Last year, we were definitely subpar. We had some injuries. We had a lot of guys go down who didn't get to finish the season with us, Lucas, and some of these guys. And but we feel like with a healthy tight end room, with the guys we have coming in, we took 2 guys that are both 6'5", 240 pounds. We got a great young guy who can run around. We feel like can replace Gavin's production. So again, we feel like that's a retooled room. Defense
as a whole, what did you like about the last couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, again, I talked about the retention earlier. Having Torrey Geathers back and Sony back, and Sony's got 3 years starting experience under his belt. Gabe Peterson back, Bradley Vaselli back. Henry Davis coming back, Josiah Charles coming back for a 3rd year, Nick Sessions coming back, Burnock Aya. I mean, we got a lot. We have more experience coming back on the defensive side of the ball than we've had probably since going back to 2023 before the portal existed. So excited about that. But what we needed to do is we needed to add some more beef up front. I feel like we did a really really good job, finishing off that defensive end and tackle room. Added a handful of new corners, so and added a new kicker and punter to the roster too. So again, I'm excited about it, and a lot of work to be done, and who knows, we'll see how it all shakes it out. But I feel like we did a good job of working hard and identifying some really good players, and they were all in the weight room today, starting with their tests, and we're ready to go.
When you look back to last year, Coach, and what Jamal Thompson Jr. did coming from Sanford, Brad Vislisell made a lot of plays coming from Northern Iowa. Did that give you more confidence going into the FCS side of the portal to bring in impact guys on that line?
It's interesting because part of it's what you think, and part of it's just the conversations you have with your peers. So when I'm at the head coaches meeting in Charlotte, and I'm sitting down and we're talking about how we identify guys and where they come from, and you see it all over. I mean, you look at Ole Miss this year, and their quarterback that led them down near to a championship was a Division II player. You're looking at, these guys from all over. What you're realizing is that there's so much value to be put on actual playing time and starting and experience. You bring a guy down, sometimes you bring a guy down like Washington from a place like Iowa who hasn't played a ton, but he's played a little bit. It's one of those deals where you got to really know that guy, and we feel like we do, whether or not that guy's going to be an impactful guy. But, James Jones coming up, I'll tell you right now, I think he's got the ability to be just a really dynamic guy, and so again, when you look at the guys we brought here, and not just us, other Conference USA schools, and then you look at SEC schools, just all over the place. I mean, today ESPN did an article about where they project every starter in the country, and when you look at that, you see Division II guys there, you see 1AA guys there, you see JUCO guys there. So I think what you're starting to see all over the country is that it's really identifying talent that has experience, not just talent.
I do want to single out Sone Alpiu because he's now going to be a 4-year starter, and he's a throwback, right? Because in this day and age of the portal, Sone has stayed with his program, trusted the process. How excited are you to have him and his leadership on a daily basis, having been in this program now for 4 years?
It's huge, and Sone's a dad, so it was great that we were able to do a little bit more for him, so he can help out his family. Having a guy like that back who plays the brand of football that he does, he's such a physical guy, and just having that leadership, I'm really happy for him. He's going to graduate from here. He's going to be an Aggie. He's going to end his career on the football field. We have some guys that left, and I don't think they put themselves in great football situations. Monetarily, they went and got paid a little bit, and I can't blame them for that either. I'm saying it's a different day and age, but I think there's something to be said of walking off that field. Again, knock on wood, if he stays healthy, right? Being a senior and being a team captain and being a player and being out there and contributing on a daily basis. So I'm really happy for him, and I'm happy for the Aggies.
You mentioned some of those other pieces at linebacker. Gathers is back. Zayden Davis played a lot as a freshman. How about Chance Barron, who's healthy now? And it would have been fun to watch Chance Barron on the field last year, but he was out all year, and now he's back and healthy. We
feel like that's a deep room. With the 4 guys you just mentioned, we brought in a JUCO player there too, and so and we've got some young guys too that are going to work their way up. So again, in this day and age, you've got to be deep. It helps you on special teams, so I'm excited about that. But having your 2 returning starters back, and then having a guy like Zayden, a local kid who I think is going to make a huge jump this year. Barron, I think, has got a chance to he had a great spring for us before he got hurt last year. He's done a really good job of rehabbing, and we're excited to see him back out there.
You retained well in the secondary. Burnock Aya is back, like you mentioned. Session, JoJo Charles, Lorenzo Smith. And I love having Taden Barnes back, right?
Yeah.
Because he was so impactful for this program 2 years ago. Where do you kind of see him fitting in? Nickelback, safety, where does he fit into the mix?
What? The biggest thing we always talk about is putting your best 11 on the field. He obviously can play nickel. There's no problem there. He can play safety. We need him to kind of be like, a little bit of a dual threat guy. You know what I'm saying? If there's injuries or if there's depth issues while the young guys are trying to pick it up, he can go in and play both. So, again, that's a great example though, of why you need to treat guys the right way. I think, we do a good job in this program. And we have, going all the way back to when Coach Kill was here, just, being a player-oriented program. And when you see guys like Gabe Peterson come back and the impact that he made on the team last year, and then you see a guy like Taden who played 808 snaps and left for a little bit of money, but then, again, when we reach out, when he goes back in the portal, he took no other trip and he came right back. Yeah. You don't come back to a place unless, and it's not just us and us coaches, it's this community, it's this university, it's this fan base, obviously it's the coaching too. So it's great to get a guy like that back.
Are you still trying to stockpile as much as possible in the secondary and build more depth going into the season?
Yeah, you always do, so again, it's one of those deals where each position group has a different different, retention, rate, and, some guys do need to move on. I mean, we had a handful of guys too. It's funny when people look at the portal and how oh my God, we're losing. Some of them needed to go in the portal because they needed to play and they weren't going to play here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not a knock. It's those guys want to play. So, I think when you look at, the guys that went in and what we were able to kind of acquire, I think just overall, we've elevated ourselves a little bit, and I'm sure the team that we play against have done the same thing. So in the fall, we're going to find out. But again, excited about this group right now.
Let's segue to the coaching side of things. Sadiq Haynes, new D-line coach. What can you tell us about him? Well,
Sadiq's been at UTSA for the last couple of years. They've done a great job over there in building the program. It's they've been one of the more successful G5 schools over the last bunch of years, had a lot of success, and we've already seen the benefits of it because we signed a couple guys from there, a defensive end and D tackle. So excited about that. So he just brings a lot of energy. He has a history with Coach Morris and Coach Hensley. They worked together at Sam Houston a couple years back, and when they won the national title. So it's great just getting his energy. And sometimes too, even with players, when coaches move on or leave for different reasons and such, to me it's always an opportunity to improve, and I feel like we've improved in that room right now. So bringing him in, I think, is going to bring a whole nother level of energy, and hopefully it reflects in the effort our guys give.
Well-deserved promotion for Coach Mazzoni.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's been here. This coaching world's kind of crazy. He's been an on-the-field coach at Texas A&M, at UCLA, University of Arizona. He was an offensive coordinator at Idaho State, and Coach Regal, who's a great guy, great friend of mine. He actually left to go be the assistant head coach at Arizona State. So Coach loses his job, but it's not because he was doing a bad job. Yeah. It's just the circumstances. So he came here as an analyst 2 years ago, and he's done a good job of hanging on with us. And it was a no-brainer. As soon as I talked to Coach Fishback, and he was moving on. I literally just called him, hey, you ready to go? And he said, yes, sir. And that was it. It was done. So excited about that.
Great to have Kanan Yarrow back. He's going to assist Coach Canova on the O-line.
Well, Kanan, if you're an Aggie fan and you know him, 3-year starter here. He experienced all the building here, and the success that we had. And he's just a great, great young man. He's already helped tremendously in the recruiting process. And just the more Aggies you have around, the better. You see that. You look at Miami the other night and the pride that people have in that program, the ex-players, and their head coach being an ex-player. It's great when you have people that truly have skin in the game, and they're always going to make the best decisions for that program because it's the place that gave them the opportunity, and that's what Kanan brings.
January's been chaotic. It seems like in coaching now, there is no time off. So I want to give you this floor right now, Coach, to kind of shout out your current coaches, staff members, and the job they did building this roster towards 26.
Yeah, the real all-stars are, Madison, Ashley, Marquette and Gaynor. Those four that are off the field. They are really the all-stars. From booking hotel rooms to, getting cars to, flying families in from different places and getting restaurants. The amount of work that was put in between January 2nd. Well, it goes back before that in the evaluation process. But between January 2nd and what we had just this last Sunday, it's been tremendous, So, again, shout out to the coaches. They did a great job. But everybody, right here behind the camera, you got Mike. He does a phenomenal job. He's doing photo shoots. And, we got, Coach Klein and the staff's in there, in the weight room. And, you got Dom upstairs, in the training room. When you talk about the effort it takes in recruiting a football team, it's, again, you're bringing in 30 to 40 guys a year, that's a lot of guys, that's a lot of meals, it's a lot of, time to show people around. And I got to take my hat off to the good Lord because we had sunny days the entire time. It was beautiful out here. Our stadium and, the mountains and just the ambiance out here, it was great. I don't think we had a bad weather day. However, I think we have 2 high school kids coming in this weekend and it's supposed to rain, so that's okay. At least we got most of our work done.
It takes a village, doesn't it?
It truly does. Yeah. I think, if you sit back and you look at the amount of work that it takes to just get a team fielded in this day and age. It's always been tough, but in this day and age with the portal and the transientness of the game and the timeline, getting them in, and then, you look at Morgan and her academic staff, okay, we got guys that just committed signed on Sunday. Well, we started school today. So it's like the amount of work you got to do just to get them enrolled, Rick Chapa and all them. And then, and I got to say this too, Joe Fields has been outstanding, with him and his staff, and it's just, he's been a guy who bounced a lot of things off of. He's been extremely supportive, and that's good to have. So we're excited about it, and this is definitely not something I do by myself. I got a great supporting cast.
Coach, excited for 26. Thanks so much as always.
Appreciate it. Go Aggies.
Head football coach Tony Sanchez, Adam Young saying thanks for joining us on the Aggie Up podcast series.